Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to This is a Revolution, your weekly RevPro podcast. Here, as always, with my good friend, Mr. Dave the Mark. Dave, how are we doing this evening, my fine sir?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Happy New Japan Cup final day to all who celebrate. Two things that have made me very happy today. One, we're recording a podcast at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I don't have any lights on because sunlight is coming through the windows. And secondly, David Finlay won the New Japan Cup, and that makes me so happy because that's exactly what I wanted. Now he has to go and murder Hiroki Goto and break everybody's dreams. Goto had his moment. Now David Finlay can be the face of New Japan, and I'm all here for it.
Spoilers, Dave. Spoilers. I'm kidding. I'd love to say I've been watching, but I haven't been. But the reaction that I've seen online to this has been unanimously happy for David Finlay. So nice. It's not often you see that in wrestling.
I really do. I fell in love with him a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when Juice Robinson was injured, and so Finn Juice kind of had to go on the back burner, and Finlay started doing single stuff. And he was just he was so good at being the sympathetic babyface that just couldn't win. And, you know, he had brilliant matches with Jay White and Zack Sabre Jr. and Will Ospreay, and he just looked like every time I watched him wrestle afterwards, I was like, that was a 5-star match. And yeah, he was in the ring with top level wrestlers.
Yeah.
But the reason why the match was so good was because they were the bullies and he was the victim that you just wanted to see, like, get over the line.
Yeah.
And I know that then there were people that didn't like when he first joined Bullet Club because it's change and no one likes change and nobody wanted Jay White to leave. And then you've got the whole, like, you know, everyone will have the person they wanted it to be. And it was Finlay, and then he had to find himself a little bit in that role. But I think he's absolutely found it. I think he has done for like the last 12 months, really.
Yeah.
And he's like, War Dogs are like the coolest thing in New Japan for me.
Yeah, I like that's what. So again, I don't keep massive tabs on New Japan, but from what I see on the outside looking in, David Finlay kind of feels like Jay White did when he came into Bullet Club. Everyone disliked him, and he was putting on great matches. Like I remember Jay White versus Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, and everyone like, he's terrible. I'm like, what do people dislike about this guy? He's cool. Like, I really like him. And I kind of get the same feeling with David Finlay a little bit as well, that people just want to dislike, but actually probably deep down, if they look themselves, probably would like the guy. But yeah, like the only thing that I ever saw where I laughed to myself, I forget, was it last year's, I think it was last year's Wrestle Kingdom, when it was him versus Ospreay versus Moxley for the global title, if I remember rightly. I could be getting wrong on that. And I'm like, oh, they really want to put him over then, don't they? And I looked, I was like, we know who's winning that match then, because obviously,
that was as obvious a winner as I would say Will Kaven was at Epic Encounter.
Yeah, exactly. But
everybody wanted Robbie X to win, or everybody wanted Stephen Wolf to win. It was pretty much, I kind of described it as 49.5% of people wanted one, 49.5% of people wanted the other, and then you had the 1%ers who were secretly, like me, cheering on Kaven.
Such a fucking mark. Such a mark. Well, you know what? Let's get into the show. So first of all, we were just discussing off air, Dave, that we obviously did our predictions contest last week, and it's an interesting event, right? We talk a lot about predictability and how you never want a show to be necessarily, you don't want everything to be predictable because that can be boring at times. But we've also talked about how predictability can sometimes be a good thing as well, as long as it's done in the right way, makes sense. And now when we looked at this show, we called this show, every single match that was announced at the time, we called it all. Now that's not meant to sound like we're very clever boys, like we know we are, but at the same time, like, it was just one of those shows that you could kind of see the direction everything was moving into. We're moving obviously to Doncaster and the big shows there, and then we had one.
Very logical, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had one match that we were like, we cannot call this either way. Like, we could make cases for either way, but it was a very logical show, like you said. I think there was one match we got wrong, or we both got the same match wrong. But more importantly, that means I'm still winning on the predictions competition. So I'm taking this for as long as I can, because I know there is going to come a point where my hubris and my grand ideas get the better of me. Like, I was sitting there, and the lads were chatting beforehand. They went, "What do you think is going to happen?" And I gave 4 or 5 things that I thought were going to happen overall during the night, and literally one happened. And that one thing was Mercedes video appears on screen, which I think everyone and their mum would have gathered was happening. So predictable in some ways, unpredictable in others. But let's start with that match first, Dave, because that has to be, even though there's a lot of great stuff coming out of this, right? That has to be the main talking point coming out of Epic Encounter. Like, we knew that, well, we had strong suspicion that Kanji was going to be the person going up against Mercedes.
Everything was pointing in that direction.
Exactly.
Everything was lining up for Kanji with the Serena Deeb victory, and then a nice series of victories at the start of 2025.
Yeah.
But I had enough doubt in my mind that maybe it wasn't nailed on, because one, she's wrestling Deonna Purrazzo, high caliber opponent. The politics of a big signed wrestler coming over to an independent company and performing, sometimes they have to go over because it's important for what they're doing in their parent company. So there's always that moment of like, okay, maybe Deonna has been booked to win this match.
Yeah.
The idea that it is a wrestling booking trait to build somebody up and then have them have a match which goes the wrong way, so then they have to overcome the odds and can finish their story. So there was that part, and also, if Deonna had beaten Kanji, what would that have meant for Mercedes? Well, Deonna could come back to RevPro on any given Sunday, because there's nothing stopping her from doing so. She's a wrestler, who can take independent bookings and does so. She's got an affiliation with RevPro. She's very close with Zoe Lucas. There's lots of reasons where you could say, does Deonna wrestle twice in a month for RevPro? Yes, she could do. And then there's also the side of it of, but what if Mercedes wrestles Alex Windsor at high stakes, and she wrestles Deonna Purrazzo on an episode of Dynamite or an episode of ROH or Collision or whatever?
Yeah.
I didn't think any of those things were going to be the outcome, but there was enough doubt in my mind that I still felt the catharsis when Kanji won.
Yeah.
And you could literally feel the energy of the crowd of, like literally people leaving their seats, people like jumping up to clap, people banging on the guardrail. There was a visceral reaction because everybody wanted it for Kanji.
Yeah.
But there was clearly enough doubt amongst the people that it wasn't like a nailed on foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
And the match absolutely delivered.
Absolutely did. And I think one of the things you touched on there, which I think is really important, Dave, right? Wrestling, we know, changes, right? Like you said, it is one person sitting with a pen booking these matches going, this is where I'm going with. And we don't know how far in advance Kanji's been told she's getting this match. We don't know how far in advance Mercedes is told, right? People were speculating on the way back to the car. Well, when do we think Mercedes did this video? Do we think she did it last night at House of Glory Wrestling, which she was literally on the night before? Like, it was this quick turnaround. Like, this is what's get people talking, because you think it could be the plan. It could be done really quickly. But by the same token, Andy could be going right up to the last minute and going, well, I've got these options on the table. And there are things, and I actually want to touch about this as well, because we spoke last time about these people are obviously missing from the show, but sometimes the things that we can get really wrapped up with, following a company like RevPro first and foremost, is sometimes you forget about the wider world out there, don't you? You actually forget these other companies, like Leon works for TNA, Mercedes works for AW, has got all these other things. Sometimes these things that makes logical sense to us as why a match might happen, actually there's these even more logical things where I go, nope, this takes complete precedent. The wife said it to me, we were talking about Alex Windsor, and she was like, oh, well, Alex wouldn't leave because she's currently in the Cutthroat Collective and doing stuff there. I'm like, if a contract was put on the table tomorrow, she'd be gone, and rightly so, right? Like, that's the sort of...
You've got to believe that's the case for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think sometimes, I mean, I know that I can get a little bit caught up in the, oh, well, this must be because this makes logical sense, but there's all that other stuff that goes on around it. So, guess what I'm trying to get at is that while everything felt like it made logical sense, until it's confirmed, until Kanji gets that win, until that video appears, it's nailed on, but it's not nailed on until that graphic drops. And what a set of graphics that was dropping. Like you said, first of all, the energy in the room. That was my favourite thing all night. And there was a lot of things that I was like really, really high on. But that moment when she won, even me, like, I can't say I had the same doubts as you, like that little niggling doubt you did. I didn't. I was like, she's winning. To me, it was obvious. Maybe that's where I could just be like that brain sometimes.
I think that's your optimism, mate. That is
your
your pure positivity and optimism, as opposed to me being negative, kind of half glass empty West Ham fan. Like, don't count any chickens until every single one of those little bastards has hatched.
Maybe that was me a year and a half ago. But the New Day power of positivity is getting to me. But at the same time, it didn't make that moment mean anything less to me. Like, sometimes when you are so nailed on something that happened, you go, oh, well, that happened. Cool. No, being in that, I felt it. Like, I just felt it going round, and my voice is still fucked from the weekend. Okay, still fucked. Like, because
mate, yeah, I sounded hungover as fuck when I went to work on Monday.
I've scratched, like, between that and hay fever, being scratchy throat. Like, I'm sitting here, my voice is already going. But it was like when we were getting, like, that happened, we were just out there screaming, and God bless anyone that was sitting near our little section of the six of us who were all together, because we were fucking gobshites the whole time. But well, Will Warren was a gobshite. The rest of us were trying to match that level. But the noise, the energy.
It was the quietest match on the card was Kaven, Stephen Wolf, and Robbie X, right? Which happened to be the match that Will Warren weren't there for because he's gone off to get some food.
Yeah.
So he might be a little gobshite, but he does a good service to the noise volume in every room. He does.
But everything about it, the match was fantastic, because we were sitting discussing, well, how's the order of the second half going to look? Because you've got two very technical matches coming one after the other. And I felt the way they did both of them was really, really good. I liked the win for Kanji. Didn't feel like it came out of nowhere, but kind of did in a good kind of way. And also, it was decisive. That went on. And it wasn't some long drawn out. It was, nope, I'm tapping. I know I'm beat here.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good, because yes, sometimes
I always prefer that. I'm a big believer in, if a submission gets locked in, and it's meant to be a killer submission hold, you're tapping.
Yeah, and that just showed, like, smartness from Deonna. Like, she is a technical wrestler herself. She knew she was beaten. Right, okay, there's none of this bravery and trying to fight through it. It's like, no, I'm done. Next time. I really like the ending, because I think that almost...
And also, like, that ending is, like, I feel, at least on my timelines, the most talked about thing of the show.
Yeah.
From Osprey to Hyan, just all these people popping up on my timeline who have watched the little Graps on film video made from it, and are commenting on, like, oh, what a beautiful finish, amazing finish, can't wait to watch the full match, what a finish, just all these little snippets. And I always like those, because we talk from a fan perspective about what we like. It's always interesting to see what the wrestlers like.
Absolutely, yeah. And I loved that. And then actually when the bell rang as well, Deonna was going out the ring, and I thought, I was convinced that we were going to get some sort of interruption or something else was going to happen other than the Mercedes video. And she just gave the, like, almost a disrespect to Kanji, which I was like, that's interesting, because I know she was a heel, but maybe it's like, is that going to bring her back for something as well? Oh, Dave has now gone silent on me. So this was me talking about him being a gobshite.
No, I'm here, mate. I'm here.
Oh no, it looked like you were. It looked like you were talking, but I couldn't hear anything.
Where the fuck did the natural light go?
We
literally had it for like the first 10 minutes of the podcast.
What was really
funny
is you said that, and I noticed your head turn at the same time. I got up to switch my light on, and I noticed your head turn, but yours doesn't look quite as dark as mine did, whereas mine was starting to get there. And I was like, it's funny, isn't it? Like, yeah. At the same time, we're just both like, what's going on here? Got to do this.
I was enthusiastic about the natural light, mate. I got so happy.
I mean, to be fair, mate, we've made it to 6:20, and we're just switching lights on. So in a few weeks' time, it's gonna be great, mate.
It's gonna be amazing.
Oh,
it's gonna be amazing.
And what else was amazing was that video popping up and actually seeing Mercedes, having her talk about, like, we've obviously seen her talk about RevPro and little things like carrying the belts, but actually in a RevPro capacity, this is my opponent. Like, amazing.
And it's like, you are talking about one of the most decorated wrestlers in the history of the business, and you're talking about, I always kind of think of her, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bayley. They are the face of the women's kind of revolution in wrestling, right? And I know that's like a WWE term, and it's all part of their.
But let's be honest,
and their version of the history of the sport.
Yeah,
but they are the foremost recognizable women in the world who are associated with wrestling to the average person. And one of them is coming to the Doncaster Dome to wrestle Kanji for the Undisputed British Women's Championship. Like, that's mental, right? Like, that's absolutely mental. But put it in perspective, the RevPro Instagram channel has reached 1 million people in the last 30 days.
Fucking crazy.
That doesn't happen without Mercedes Mone.
No, it doesn't.
Like, how many people have subscribed to RevPro On Demand since she won the belt at the start of January? Yeah. How many people are going to stream high stakes? Yeah, there's who I'd like to think is going to do good numbers in terms of the number of people buying tickets. We'll find out on the night.
So
what nobody will know other than Andy and the like who monitor the numbers are how many people are watching it from around the world, because that's good money for them as well, right? Everybody who pays their £7.49 or whatever it is, £7.40 a month, that's passive income, which is massive for an independent wrestling company. So it's business-wise, it's like super cool and interesting to me, but ultimately it's going to be a really, really awesome main event. And it's got a main event, right?
Mate, that's the main event, right? You do not have Mercedes Mone, and I mean this with all due respect to Michael Oku and Leon Slater. No one is going to care about that as much as they are going to care about Mercedes. Like, they're there for a moment, because what we are experiencing is something so surreal, right? We are talking about the premier independent wrestling company in the world, in my opinion, right? Like, there is no independent company out there, with maybe Deadlock Pro being the one, at least in a Western, like, taking out Japan and kind of the infrastructure they've got out there. I don't think there's anyone doing anything on the level of RevPro is, right? We've spoken about this a lot, that RevPro are taking things to new heights and new levels that we consistently go, this will never happen, this will never happen. And then actually, we're now at the stage where we're going, you know what, this will never happen, but now nothing's off limits, right? Nothing is off limits because
For
of
me,
the people.
the minute we got MJF versus Michael Oku, like, and just at York Hall for an event, Summer Sizzle was basically made for, surely that's what everyone feels, right?
Yeah.
It was made for MJF
Absolutely,
and Oku
must
because
be. Yeah.
we know that it was never originally in the diary. It was going to be a Southampton show. They rearranged the schedule for it. So surely that's in response to him.
Yeah.
But MJF in 2024, it's not the MJF in 2019 who actually wrestled for RevPro.
Mm-hmm.
It's the MJF of 2024 and the bidding war of 24 and all that nonsense. Like, you can't surely at this stage turn around and say, realistically, RevPro aren't, like, John Cena ain't turning up at RevPro. Roman Reigns isn't turning up at RevPro. There are some things that are off the table, but outside of WWE, nothing's off the table.
Yeah.
And even some things with WWE, you never know, could be. You never know because things change, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought, even as recently as 6 months ago, that Lucha Underground would be talked about on Monday Night Raw?
Yep.
Like it was in Penta's match this week, and that Pete Dunne would be allowed to go and work Bloodsport.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. And like you said, outside of WWE, everything feels like it's on, like, could be on the table, which for an independent show, that is madness saying that, because there should be a limit. And this is where I think RevPro are in that space of their own right, because we're talking about a company that in the last, well, not even in the space of 12 months, had Orange Cassidy defending his title in a RevPro ring. It had MJF defending his title in a RevPro ring, and it had Mercedes Mone capturing a world title, well, a British title, I should say, but a title for RevPro, not in a RevPro ring, but on a show that is co-promoted between AEW, New Japan, in Japan at the Tokyo Dome. Like, if we gone back to last January and said all of that was happening, we go, you are talking bollocks, right? This is the level we're operating in now. Also, to just add on to that as well, right? With, like, you talk about Mercedes. I thought, as we're going through things, I thought, right, I'm just gonna look up some of her stats, right? But even then, let's just talk about what that means. She's a woman that's been in, I think, 4 or 5 WWE games, right? So literally in video games, she is on The Mandalorian. She's been on various other USA Network TV shows. She has been in a film as recently as 2 years ago, which stars Don Johnson of Miami Vice fame, Tyrese, who is a singer in his own right and has been in all of the Fast and Furious films. So again, big level people. There's a band called the Mountain Goats that are quite well known in, like, folky singer-songwriter styles. They've written a song called Song for Sasha Banks, which is about her. She was at New York Fashion Week modeling 3 years ago. That's all the stuff outside of her being wrapped out to the ring by her cousin Snoop Dogg at her first ever WrestleMania. AEW TBS title, other independent titles in there as well. New Japan Strong Women's Championship, IWGP Women's Championship, Rolling Stone Future Diva of the Year, Feud of the Year, matches that have redefined what, and you touched on it really nicely with like the women's revolution. Let's be honest, right? The guiding light of public conscious for the more casual people, myself included at that time, not knowing the real in-depth of Joshi or Mexican wrestling, is North American wrestling, right? So they broke free of that mold, and Sasha Banks and Bayley was revolutionary. Okay, I was at WrestleMania 32 where the women's title was brought. It was walked in as the Divas title. It walked out of as the women's title, right? A cultural shift in wrestling. She was at the forefront of that. And my second time seeing her in a match. The first time, AT&T Stadium, WrestleMania 32. The next time, the Doncaster Dome.
Yes, that's nuts.
It's crazy.
How many people were at that WrestleMania that you were at?
I think they said it was over 100,000, so probably like 80 odd thousand. Yeah, like
that's
I remember
absolutely crazy. And you think like it's from that WrestleMania weekend to this WrestleMania weekend, but it's about what she wants to achieve now with women's wrestling around the world, isn't it? That's what she's. It's like a badge of honor that she's carried, and it feels right that she's she's coming to RevPro, that she's coming to this version of RevPro that has put so much more emphasis into women's wrestling over the last sort of 12 months, and is absolutely kind of reaping the rewards for it, because we've got a division now. We've got a whole group of people that can be booked, and not just booked for one-off appearances, but every time somebody comes in, they can pick up where they left off last time. They can. They've got these little seeds that are being sown. Whether it's Anita Vaughan, who we haven't seen yet this year, but the second she's booked, she comes back into that. I haven't quite found my feet to get a big win yet, but that's where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
To your Chantel Jordan, who again hasn't appeared for RevPro yet this year, but has this ongoing, I've been the butt of Cutthroat Collective jokes one too many times. I want to kick one of their heads in. You've then got the obvious storylines happening with Amira and Zoe Lucas and Danny Luna and Alex Windsor, then the wider Cutthroat Collective, the Millie McKenzie part of it, the whole Medusa complex teases. Like, there's loads going on with people that we're seeing all the time, but they've built up a good little set of back kind of origin stories, if you like, for every other wrestler who's coming in and doing, every fourth, fifth, sixth show as opposed to every single week.
Yeah.
And it's I think back to 2022 when I first started going to watch RevPro, and it would be, oh, Lucia Lee was cool, and then you don't see her again for 2 years.
Yeah.
Or Laura Di Matteo was cool, don't see her again for however long. There was lots of people just coming in, doing a shift, and off they go again.
Yeah.
And it's really, really moved away from that, and it feels like that this is going to help hopefully inspire a whole new generation of young fans and young future wrestlers as well, because I know for a fact that when I take my girls to the wrestling, the people they warm to the most are always the women. It is representation, isn't it?
And you know what? Representation was something I was thinking there when you were talking, Dave. All right, because you're 100% right. And look, we were at one point pigeonholed into this is what a women's wrestler is, right? And it was usually a woman that was considered to be of an attractiveness scale. Like, you have to be the top of this, the stereotypical blonde hair, blue eyes, all of this. And let's be honest, a lot of them couldn't wrestle, but they were put in that spot and they did the best they could with it. But you also had the people
it was
coming
effectively up. Swimsuit models, right?
Exactly. And I think at one point,
swimsuit models and gymnasts.
Yeah, there was a little bit where wrestling, I think, kind of grew up and was like, no, like, and Mercedes was one of those people that showed that, like, there's more to women than just that. And look, there is nothing wrong with saying, like, sex appeal with women is something that can be used, right? Like, I think one of the ways people that I think exemplifies that and walks the line really well is Mariah May, right? It's not the defining characteristic of the person, right? It is
but something that
they
can lean into and leans into well.
And I think as well, when you look at RevPro, this is where the women there all do things differently, right? Sky Smithson does not present herself in the same way Zoe Lucas does. Zoe Lucas doesn't present herself in the same way Sapphire Reed does. Sapphire Reed doesn't present herself in the way Kanji does. They are all different types of women who look different, they act different, and different people are going to relate to them for different reasons. And I think that's incredible that we are not just going a cookie cutter route. We are full on now, and I think RevPro has really just smashed their own boundaries with it, right? Because again, this time last year, if you told me this is where the women's division would be, I'd be like, no, it wouldn't, because there did feel, I don't think it was treated like a sideshow, but it did feel like it was this little thing off to itself that wasn't really tapped into. Cutthroat Collective came on, and just the company is the shift, the monumental shift in RevPro.
Yeah.
And
you can literally, you can trace it back, go on Cage Match and look at every single card from the 2nd of June 229 last year, when the Cutthroat Collective invaded after Rio versus Danny Luna, which did main event. That was a big moment in itself.
Yeah.
But look at every card since then. You know, the token women's match, which is what would have been used against companies like RevPro. In the past, that would have been the criticism lobbied at them. It's just not there now.
No. And so, also, I was just gonna say, when you say token match, because obviously there's the one match, then the thing that people could come back with is, well, they're just doing it to be politically correct. Every single woman on that show has earned their spot, right? And no one is given a free ride either. In the same way that the lads, like, you go on there, you earn your spot, and it's provided having these additional matches have provided the chance for you Chantal Jordans, for instance, to have come in, and there's not just the one match for them to try. There's actually another spot they can take, and they go in, they show what they're about. Off you go, off to the races.
Plus, like, I'm not being funny, but political correctness. RevPro sold 4,000 seats at the Copper Box in 2023 with a model that featured one women's match per card for 2023. It's not like the people were bloody boycotting the shows because they didn't think there was enough women's matches.
Yeah.
If there were grumbles, they were pretty quiet, and they were generally like in the online Twitter sphere, which is quite easy to mute, or was, you know, quietly amongst fans at the shows. It's not like there was a pressure on RevPro to change. It's more like the opportunity to change and the desire to change came from within, and from seeing that there is a good enough, strong enough pool of talent around. Because this is something else that I think also sometimes doesn't gets considered with RevPro. RevPro is not somewhere, it's not a British independent company where wrestlers go to find their feet and get their reps in and learn the ropes and
no.
prepare for the next thing. RevPro is the finishing school of European wrestling. It's where wrestlers who have learned all of what they need to do outside of RevPro come to get the spotlight that RevPro can afford, because it works with AEW, because it works with CMLL, because it works with New Japan, because they've got these stellar events like shows at York Hall, shows at the Copper Box, Crystal Palace Arena, Doncaster Dome, the Wolverhampton Hangar. You look at the show on Sunday, and whilst it was their first ever show, and that crowd can grow, but that venue can hold a lot of people. And maybe one day we're talking about them fitting, you know, 1,000 people in there or close to it. So yes, there are lots of really, really talented wrestlers out there, but they have to be on the level to be the best in their field, to be on a RevPro show and to be involved in a RevPro storyline. Yeah. There's a big difference between coming in, working a show and leaving again, and coming in and being someone that you're actually trying to sell tickets around. You know, and ultimately it's a money-making business, and wrestlers put bums on seats at the shows, so
Yeah.
they've got to draw people in. But yeah, it's we've talked a lot about it, but it is the biggest takeaway, I'd say, from Sunday's show.
Yeah.
For me, the next biggest takeaway has got to be the fact that, one, we have new undisputed British Tag Team Champions. Two, what an incredible match it was.
Mm-hmm.
And three, how wonderful was it to really be able to lose yourself in a match, because nobody knew who was winning that.
No.
Whilst we talk about the fact that some of the other matches had predictability because of logic, this was really, really 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua and Mills had only recently won the belts, but the Young Guns are the team that feels like should beat them for it. It was just a case of, can they do it now, or are they going to wait till later?
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Like, it just had. So I heard this quote once where someone said, and I disagreed with this for a long time, but they said, you want matches where it feels like no guy or no team can go in and afford to lose, right? I'm like, well, why? And I never truly got it, right? Because I was like, surely, like, there is a team, like, you don't want someone to feel like they've got a loss out of it. But then I thought about matches like this where it feels like it's too early for them to lose, as in Mills and Joshua. But because I built it so well, you go, but they could lose, and it would be fine. It makes sense. Like, they're not just losing for the sake of losing, and it's almost like you've got these two teams who, it's not that they can't lose, it's they feel like they can't lose because everything they do is on this huge win streak that they're on, right? So one of the things that I
really like the fact that that's not how sport works.
Mm-hmm.
Not every team that wins a trophy, not every team that wins a cup goes on to have this incredible run. You know, think about teams that have won a cup or won, you know, think about like Aston Villa this year. They're in the Champions League semi-finals, yet they're not as high in the league this year as they were last year.
God.
Leicester City won the Premier League. Amazing storyline. But the next season, nowhere near. Their manager ended up getting sacked.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how sport works.
Yeah.
And if everyone they win the title and then they have a 6 to 12 month reign with the belt.
Yeah.
And with the number of shows RevPro work, maybe you'd say even 6 months could potentially be too short.
Yeah.
So 9 to 12 month reign.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the case, where's the jeopardy for their first challenger?
Yeah.
Where's the jeopardy for their second challenger? Did anybody think that Hiroki Goto was going to lose to Yuji Nagata when he defended his title for the first time?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
Does anyone think that, you know, think of a recently crowned champion in a company? Did anyone think the Hurt Syndicate were going to lose to the Outrunners?
Of course.
Does anybody think that when Moxley finally gets toppled, the winner's going to lose it on the next show?
Yeah.
It very rarely happens.
Yeah.
But then it becomes kind of predictable that it won't happen. RevPro, and I'm not endorsing it because sometimes I don't like it, but they absolutely have no model for how long someone holds a belt for.
Yeah.
You know, Oku held it for ages, Jacobs didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Leon Slater won the belt in December and lost it in March, but there was only 3 shows in between.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't get that predictability with RevPro, which I really like from a fan perspective. I've had to kind of grow to not. I've kind of tried to retrain my brain of thinking that if someone wins championship and they don't keep it for very long and they lose it, that something must, you know, there must be a reason for that.
Yeah.
You know, something must have gone on, and it's like, no, it doesn't. It's just that's the way they're going with it.
It's a storytelling device.
Yeah, exactly that. And at the end of the day, a championship is a prop, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. It's a prop to tell a story with. This was my match of the night, and
Same.
I know for a lot of people, the match of the night was Oku versus Manders, which I imagine we'll talk next about.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible. Both of these matches were incredible. What tipped it for me was the fact that Young Guns and Joshua and Mills had something that Manders and Oku couldn't have, which was me completely lost in the I have no idea who's winning. And if anyone saw me at the show, this was the match I was most animated in, because I really wanted Mills and Joshua to win.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I was popping for everything that they wanted you to pop for.
Mm-hmm.
Every near fall, every submission. There were moments, and it was when I can't remember who did what. One of the Young Guns did pile driver to Jay Joshua on the apron.
I think it was
and it
Luke.
was at that moment where I was just like, fuck, they're going to win.
Yeah.
Because Jay can't make the save for Mills, and Mills is outnumbered, and you just lose your sense of everything, and you just get lost like a little boy in the story of what's happening, and suddenly your heroes are about to be killed in the story, and they're going to have their championship taken away, and just lose yourself in it. And at 38, I can still do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And when it does, it's so special. And for me, that match is going to take a lot of beating. And it goes back for me. I said it at the time. I said it to a few people. Best RevPro tag team match I've seen live. And, you know, driving back on the way home, you start to think about, was it really? I've seen some pretty cool tag matches. Let's think. I think the only matches that can rival it are Aussie Open matches, the Aussie Open Sunshine Machine, Aussie Open Velocities, and you're talking about a couple of matches there that were Dave Meltzer 4.75 star rated matches.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're talking about the cream of the crop. And even then, I'm not sure they were better than this match. I just think that they're in the discussion with it.
Yeah.
That's how highly I rated it. I just got completely lost in it.
I was the same as you, mate. So I think one of the things when it comes down to like wrestling that I always love, like tag team wrestling at its best is up there for me, right? And I think that might be my favorite way of watching wrestling. Like if you've got just two great top level tag teams that have the story behind it, the emotion behind it, the differences in styles as well. And I think we've spoken about this before, that Young Guns mirror Joshua Mills to some degree, with one being a bit more of a powerhouse that can still throw suplexes, do some lariat stuff, and one who's a bit more of a technical bastard striker. So they've kind of got that symmetry to them, but still little differences enough that Jay does have a bit more of a power advantage. For as sick as Connor is, Ethan's just a bit more of a rap bastard than even Mills is. Like, so you kind of got that. The pace and intensity that they went at really set the tone for this, and that's what kept me going through it. It was the pace of it. It didn't feel overpaced. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like we were relying on too many false finishes, because that is where one of these matches goes from great to very good. When you're going, okay, we didn't false finish too much. The finish made logical sense. Either team, I do, because I was going to say to you that was going to be my question to you. How long do you think this match went?
Maybe this is where we're a few days removed from it. It's Thursday. We often record the night after a show. We're 4 days later.
So I tell you what
Got to be
happened. Right?
around the 20-minute mark, isn't it?
I had
Maybe just under or just over.
on the way home, Will Warren was quizzing me on how long I thought this went, and I said I thought this went somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It went just over the 15-minute mark.
15
minutes and 3 seconds.
Really?
This felt like a match that went on a lot longer because it earned it.
And did they not also, though, thinking about this?
I know you're
coming. There was a delayed start, wasn't there?
There was, yeah.
Because there was some out of the ring brawling before the bell got to ring.
Yeah. That would be it. That's why it feels longer to us. Yeah, you're right.
But that weren't 10 minutes, was it? That weren't 10 minutes of brawling.
No, so that would have probably been about 5.
Take it from 15 up to 19 or maybe 20.
Yeah, and that's what set the tone, right? That all set the tone, and this chaotic atmosphere of everything going around. I thought it was perfection. I got lost.
So intense, wasn't it? And that's what I want in my wrestling. I want intensity.
When I get truly lost in a match, and it doesn't happen very often, right? Like you said, like as you get older, you become not necessarily more jaded, but it's just harder to lose yourself in the magic of things sometimes. The last time that I truly remember, like feeling like a kid again, was a tag team match. It was American Alpha and the Revival, NXT Takeover Dallas. Right, I was like. That's how I felt watching this. And yes, maybe like Oku Ospreay to a degree and stuff like that. But something about tag team wrestling at the peak of its peak just hits differently.
And ultimately, you've got to care about the wrestlers, haven't you?
Yeah.
And there are lots of wrestlers that I really enjoy watching. There are lots of people who you watch them for the first time and you're like, oh, I really like them. I'd like them to come back. But to be fully invested in a wrestler takes time, and it takes watching them regularly. And there's 4 people here that I feel fully invested in.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved. I've watched. I think I've seen every Jay Joshua match live that he's had in RevPro. I don't think I've missed one.
Yeah.
You know, I feel invested from the first moment he arrived. Mills, I think I'm like 60 odd Mills matches in at this point, from being
mental.
On my first ever RevPro show, he was Michael Oku's mate.
Yeah,
that's how I perceived him.
Yeah.
To now, where I'm waiting for the Trent 7 match. I'm waiting for another match that he has because that match with Trent 7 is legitimately, I think, my favourite ever RevPro match.
Okay, yeah.
And I choose favourite over best because I think there are loads of metrics which make a match better than one than the other. But Mills versus Trent was literally my wrestling done to perfection.
Yeah.
And it takes 2 incredible talents to be able to do that. So now it's like those two guys are on an absolute pedestal.
Yeah.
Ethan, like, I've seen every single match that he's had since he came back, and you've been on this like journey with him, like in terms of from someone that I didn't think I'd ever see the Young Guns wrestle. I watched them once in New Japan when in between Ethan's injuries, he got one match back, and it happened to be Royal Quest. I never thought I'd seen the Young Guns in the RevPro ring because I didn't think Ethan Allen would ever come back. And look, he's come back and he's fucking on another level, and not just with a catchphrase. And Luke Jacobs is like, from Luke Jacobs, the first Luke Jacobs match I ever saw, my first ever RevPro show, was deemed Fight for the Future, and it was Luke Jacobs and RKJ. And you just, for all of 2022, 23, 24, 25 now, I've just seen this lad grow into a point where I don't think it's going to be too long until I don't get to watch him live anymore.
Yeah.
But instead, I come home from work and I put my feet up and I put the telly on, and there he is in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's like New Japan feels like the perfect fit for him, but you know, I watched NXT last night, and you're like, there are so many people in RevPro that would fucking tear this place up.
Yeah.
And AEW, like you watch AEW and you think there are people on here that genuinely there are RevPro talents that would elevate some of the divisions in. You know, Young Guns would add so much to the AEW tag team division. Like, and maybe it's because I like a certain type of wrestling. Maybe it is, and maybe it's because some of these companies don't necessarily tailor their stuff to my tastes. Maybe I'm looking at things through rose-tinted glasses, but I genuinely believe there are some talents here that can go all the way. They just need the stars to align in the right order for them, and a little bit of luck, and the right person to see them at the right time.
Yeah,
it's nuts, mate.
Here's the thing, mate. Like when we're talking about that, we're talking about people that if they get scouted now, they're already at a much higher level than maybe these people would have been 10 years ago, right? They're much more ready-made. The way that Leon and Danny have just fitted onto American TV, man like DeReese, right? They are all they have not changed up who they are, right?
No,
and it would have been a time where they would have changed up who they are. I think maybe if you go across to WWE, NXT, maybe they become a bit more sanitized, okay? But I still don't think even to this day that a lot of them change up massively who they are. I think Young Guns going to NXT would still be Young Guns. I mean,
they'd just get turned up, wouldn't they? They might have to have new names. They might get, something to work with, and they might just get turned up to 11.
Yeah.
But they're still going to wrestle the same way.
Yeah, but look.
And something that I was chatting to a friend who's not a wrestling fan. He's Spanish, so when WWE was in Spain, Barcelona last week, I sent him a text being like, "Put Netflix on, see if you recognise the arena," and he couldn't believe that all those wrestling fans were in Spain watching it. Blah blah blah. Anyway, we're talking about it. I brought him to a RevPro show before, so I took him to go and watch Zozaya. So he's seen what RevPro is, and he's watching what WWE is. But one of the things that I said to him is, you've got to realise that the average age of a RevPro wrestler, 24, I'd say. If I was gonna pick a number for the average age of a RevPro card, obviously, like no disrespect intended to anybody, you got Shah Samuels at one end of the spectrum, and you got Leon Cage at the other end of the spectrum, and it probably medians out 24 years old.
I'd say
watching WWE show, 38, 39, 40.
Yeah.
Like for any Dominic Mysterio, there's AJ Styles.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't look at AJ Styles as being like, this is an elite wrestler. Yes, his career he might have less days ahead of him than he's had behind him, but you're still talking about a main event talent for the biggest wrestling company in the world.
Yeah.
So these guys, like, yes, you're like, maybe they don't get to the big leagues in 6 months' time or a year's time. But look at Gunther. How long did it take him to be a mainstay on WWE TV? But he's on it now, isn't he? He's the World Heavyweight Championship. Mm-hmm. He is the real deal.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think, mate. It's a massive tangent, I know, but it's the sort of thing that I felt watching a match that had this caliber of kind of I can't think of the right word, but the way I could completely lose myself into it, the immersion. That's the word I'm looking for. The immersive factor of this match was just on another level.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, speaking of other matches that I got immersed in and probably will we're probably going to talk about these are big three matches, and this will be the third of them, but like called out earlier, Michael Oku versus one called Manders. This was as good as I expected, with already such high expectations of the match.
That's exactly how I felt about it as well.
And
they lived up to my expectations for it.
Yeah.
But I had lofty expectations for it.
Yeah. And it was a match that left me feeling like happy at the match we'd just seen. It made me feel sad because it was truly the end of the first run of Manders in RevPro. Obviously, he's been announced for the Revolution Rumble, and look, we've talked a lot about his connection with people, and there's obviously the bit at the end of the show and whatnot. And the fact that he was the lead name for the Revolution Rumble to sell tickets, right?
That was Josh Alexander this time last year.
Yeah, and it's now one called Manders because that's what they did.
I genuinely believe there will be more positive reaction to Manders than Josh Alexander.
Yeah, so do
because Josh Alexander was, that's cool. He's a wicked wrestler and he's a really big name. That would be cool to see. Whereas Manders is, I fucking love him. I can't wait to see him again.
Yeah. And
he's more than just a RevPro wrestler. Like, he's part of the RevPro. Like, he is a RevPro wrestler.
Yeah, we talk about your people that are international based wrestlers who have become part of the RevPro roster, and Lio Rush is the one we cite as that example, right? That no matter, he'll go away, he'll come back, but every now and again comes back. He's a RevPro guy, but he's not, but he is. Manders is the same as that, and I'm saying Manders is even
the one I always think of is Hyan.
Yeah.
Like, she is the perfect example of it. If Hyan gets announced for any RevPro show, not only is it, oh, amazing, I get to see Hyan, it's, oh, I get to see Hyan, how lovely will it be to have her back again?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's lots of people that feel that way with, like, your Giselle Shaws from the years before I kind of started getting to RevPro shows. It's that same feeling. And it would be the same as if Aussie Open were ever to come back.
Yeah. Oh, please make that happen. But this match was just great. The story they told was great. The emotion of this match was great. Manders did this wonderful job of being babyfaced throughout the match as well, in a way that didn't put Oku as the heel, but it did it in a really way.
Worked the crowd sublimely.
And when Manders turned, and I use that, it never ever felt like a proper heel turn. It just felt like a man who was taking his opportunity to get the match that he wanted and get in the position he needed to be in. And
desperate opportunism.
Yeah, exactly. Which meant that you could have this match and you didn't need to play up this I'm a rotten heel. Like, this wasn't having to go to the MJF levels of you will hate me. You didn't need that because Manders was not getting booed that night. Like, he just wasn't.
Wrestling, how often do people go so far over the line that you think they'll never be able to come back from it?
Yeah.
But you don't need to do that.
No.
You don't need to go that far over the line. You just need to lean over the line. Sometimes you don't even need to step over it. You just need to show that you're prepared to go right up to it. I thought that all worked perfectly. And I'll tell you what, not enough people talk about how good Manders is at selling. He is so good at selling, he is a man who is he's 31 years old, but he wrestles like he is older than that.
Yeah.
He sells like his body's kind of broken down from, being the boss of the plains, being constantly on the road, being the journeyman. And it's like, some of that will be like genuinely like legit, but also he knows that selling it kind of also sells his gimmick, sells his story, sells his character. He for a guy his size, he could have a perfectly good career just from being a big bad hoss.
Yeah.
And just kind of no selling stuff. He's going to have a hell of a lot of a better career because he understands that he's got to make the other person look $1 million to beat him.
Yeah.
And Oku looked like that. Oku can beat anyone because Oku gets it as well. He completely understands that, like, there's a reason why he's got a submission hold as his finisher, and he does that submission hold in a way that nobody else does it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute the arched back half crab started being like this, almost, it's like you don't believe he's going to win with the regular half crab. He has to do the arched back one. The minute that started to be normalized, it was like, okay, well, I'll change it up a bit. I'll start elevating it and make it almost look like an arched back half Walls of Jericho from back in the day. Mm-hmm. Like, he just completely understands that he's got to find new ways to constantly be the underdog that wins.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing. I think that because you don't want to be in the position where it's like, oh, it's Michael Oku match, so he's going to get beaten up for about 15 minutes and then he's going to manage to get the half crab on and win. Because that was going to get really boring and really old. But I never have felt like that with Oku because he has this way of making all of these big, important matches completely unique.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think as well, like, because he's got so many different styles of opponents now as well, he's getting to flex out a little bit differently. Ricky Knight Jr. is not the same as Luke Jacobs, who is not the same as one called Manders. While they may all have similarities in styles that you can link through, they are all very different. Manders is a very different physical, imposing guy in comparison. He's a big guy. And Michael, you can sometimes forget how tall he actually is. Because he's much slighter of frame. And there's that whole, again, stars make fights thing going on. The job they did was fantastic. I agree with you on the selling aspect. And I think one of the things that really, and I think this plays a big part into why Manders is so loved, is because people don't want perfect characters. They don't want the perfect bad guy who's just bad all the time. Because when that happens, he becomes good because everyone goes, oh, he's so good at being bad. And then when it comes to a good guy, they're just a bit cringe, really, aren't they? So like you said, you've got this guy who feels like he should be winning. He's got this chink in his armor, and he's selling it and he's showing you the pain. You're connecting with him. That's what people loved about Manders. And what I found, again, really great and interesting is normally when someone connects with someone that way, the other person normally gets ignored. Now, the comparison I'm going to use is a bit of a meme comparison. Big Bill and Katsuyori Shibata. When people want to be invested in a person, they usually do it at the expense of the other person. That didn't happen here either. People wanted to be in there for Manders, but Oku also had his fans on the night as well. And I just thought it was all really well done. I absolutely I loved the post-match as well. Like, that just felt like it set up.
Felt off the cuff and genuine, right?
Yeah, there was that bit that kind of, for Manders, just felt great. I loved that he was like, everyone was like, please stay. And you probably don't pick up on it if you weren't sitting as close as we were. But Manders was going, okay, I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I will. I loved the...
I think at the end of the year, we're going to have seen as many Manders shows as we have, like, I don't know, Leon Slater shows.
Same, mate, same. I love that. It also set up nicely for Global Wars as well. Not Global Wars, sorry, High Stakes. There's me getting my Doncaster shows mixed up. It set up nicely
Leon
for
Slater
that.
versus Michael Oku.
Leon Slater versus Michael Oku.
Motherfucking yes.
That is going to be...
I've waited so long for that.
That is going to be tasty. That is going to be very good. And this version of both of them as well. And also, what I really loved, I don't know if it was the following day or if it was a couple of days later, I really loved the clip of the end of the show with the Manders appreciation of Will fucking Ospreay saying Manders is great for RevPro, like, and great for British wrestling. Like, this is a guy who I said when he got announced for Progress, I was like, he's just a GCW guy. Like, I'll be honest, I was like, no, he's he's obviously not anything special. Like, if again, this sounds rude to Progress, but they do have that of picking some of the flavor of the month from those sorts of companies. So when he got announced for RevPro, I was like, okay, I'm going to pay a bit more attention to him, because I do think RevPro is a bit more picky with who is in ring sometimes. Because I sound like such a pretentious dick saying it, and I don't mean to. I don't mean to be, but I think there is an element sometimes of some of what cuts the mustard in Progress wouldn't cut the mustard in RevPro. Okay, due to the styles, and I was
different
like, okay,
companies, right? Different companies, different
exactly,
styles of wrestling,
different
types
aims.
of
Yeah,
product.
yeah, and
But yeah.
and that's not to say that great wrestling doesn't happen there, because it does. It absolutely does. But I paid more attention. And I can't think of a guy who's had a glow up more than Manders. Like, he's come into a very different culture, right? What can a cowboy from the Corn Belt, Iowa, have in common with the average British person, right? And he's just come in and connected with everyone. Every single person, ingratiated himself in the scene, has become the guy in RevPro alongside, I'd say, in the men's side, you've probably got Leon Slater, Michael Oku, Manders. They've been your top three in the men's singles division. They've been your top three this year, in my mind, immediately off the cuff.
Oh, I mean, like 100%. And no disrespect to Oku, like Leon Slater and Manders are dominating my top 10 matches of the year so far.
Yeah. My top two matches of the year coming into this show were Manders versus Leon and Manders versus Leon. Right, they were my top two, and the only match that's jumped ahead of that is the tag team match.
Yeah, whereas so now, like, Manders is in 3 of my top 5 matches.
Yeah, it shows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So Dave, you know what? I'm just looking at the time. We have just under.
Should we take a few minutes on each other match?
20 minutes. So let's go through. I've got cage match up in front of me. So I think what I'll do is I've got a match that I want to end on. I'll go through the other matches and we'll just give our quick highlights of them, quick thoughts.
Go for it, mate.
First of all, 6-man tag got announced. I was wrong, or should I say trios match? I was wrong.
Yep,
I said
we both were, weren't we? We talked about this already.
Yeah, I didn't want to out you as having this
No,
conversation.
I'm with you, mate. We didn't want it, did we? We didn't want this match.
We were like, what's the point? What's the point? And look, yeah,
it was more of a case of we'd already talked, didn't we? We said the other week we don't talk that much about RevPro in between shows, but we do talk before a show, and we talked about the fact that this card looked perfect. 7 matches, no fat, no fluff, no filler. You could kind of see how I would open it. I would have opened with RKJ and JJ, made them go hell for leather from the start, banger of an opener, then pretty much run the order that they did for the rest of the show. I'm never going to complain at getting to see great wrestlers, and I love all of these guys. There's no disrespect to the people. I don't think they could have announced any match that I would have wanted as an extra match. I wanted the tight 7-match card.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit underwhelmed when the match got announced. It was a bit like, oh, something's probably going to suffer because of that, because now they're going to have to give up time. And I was completely wrong.
Yeah.
Everything was wrong. No match suffered. Not one single match did I think needed to run longer. The show didn't run long. At no point did I feel knackered.
It finished early.
Yeah, at no point did I start to feel disinterested.
Nope.
And the opening match was one of my favourite matches. Like, it was an absolute barnstormer.
It was, yeah. And
so, yeah, hands up. We were on.
I've spoken a lot about trios matches not being my thing, right? I've spoken a lot about that. But I've also said I think sometimes that can be TV watching rather than there in person. This was a very good one with an established trio that was fun there to be live for. And that is it. When you're watching on TV, you're seeing a lot of these things for the umpteenth time. But nothing can prepare you when you see some of these things happening right in front of you. There's
6-man tags and there's trios matches. And in my eyes, 6-man tags are, and Leon Cage, Cameron Khai, and Chris Ridgeway epitomise this, 3 singles guys put together to form a team.
Yeah.
That's a 6-man tag.
Yeah.
But CPF are a trio.
Yeah.
And CPF are the trio.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'm absolutely jumping on the CPF bandwagon. Like, the first few times I saw them as a tag team, it was always a little bit, maybe they'd come in for a show and then we didn't see them for ages. Or it was Mayhew stepping in for Lando when Lando was hurt. Stuff like this. So it was always like, oh, they're cool. I quite like them. But but they didn't get the opportunity, I should say, to do more, because it was always a one-off appearance or a change of schedule. Mm-hmm. You know, like we were going to get Danny Black and Joe Lando in the tag league. We didn't, because Joe was hurt, so Mav stepped in. And it was always like a nearly moment. And then the trios tournament, and suddenly it's like, just keep booking them as a trio because they're fucking incredible. Like,
they really
Maverick Mayhew is, I think, one of the most underrated wrestlers in the country when he's wrestling a trios match with Danny Black and Joe Lando, because it's like Joe and Danny do all the really fast, really, really cool stuff. And then Mayhew just comes in and just does the fucking dirtiest stuff in the world.
Yeah.
The number of things that he does where you're like, oh my God, you just killed a man. And it's like he just, the minute Mayhew gets in the ring, I like take a deep breath. Because I'm like, oh my God, someone's getting dropped on their neck. And obviously, he does it in the safest way because no one's ever getting carried out on a stretcher. But it just makes for such exciting wrestling.
Yeah.
And given how they did RKJ versus JJ Gale, which was different to what I wanted, this was the perfect opener.
Yeah, I thought this was really good. I was convinced. What I find really interesting is the aim of this match, right? So when CPF were announced themselves as coming, I should say, with their little Instagram stories, oh, maybe we should stop by. I was like, oh, right, they're clearly coming along to talk about who they're going to face, right? And we discussed this. I was like, right, this match against this makeshift team is their
Ridgeway, the most fucking the sour lemon,
surly as surly can be,
vinegar. Nobody wants to be my friend. I don't want to be anybody else's friend. Fuck off, the lot of you.
Yeah.
And Leon Cage and Cameron Khai.
Yeah, it was.
I love the fact we joked about it at the time, didn't we? That it turned into a triple threat match.
Yeah.
Because it was CPF versus Cameron Khai and Leon Cage versus Chris Ridgeway.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and I thought the aim of this would be to get a win for CPF and then have them announce this is who we're going for.
I was waiting for the announcement.
Nothing happened here. What I found really interesting about the aim of this match, or what appeared to be the aim of this match, I mean, obviously, keeping CPF on a winning trajectory. Leon Cage was the focus of the end of this match. And actually, that team was really, really, really competitive against a trio. Also, rivalry of the year, Leon Cage versus Busted Noses. That is the poor lad. But what it showed me, and how I reflected at the end, was the level of trust RevPro have in Leon Cage, right?
Mate, we use the word a lot, but he is a prodigy, isn't he?
He really is now. And here's why I felt that they had the level of trust. That ending, right, where Ridgeway came in and just attacked him afterwards, right? That didn't feel like it was on the fly, right? Because you don't just do a behind attack on someone.
Yeah.
And so that was obviously planned. They had to plan that on the basis that everyone could leave that ring and Leon Cage would get cheered singularly by himself, right? In a match they included Danny Black, Joe Lando, Maverick Mayhew, Chris Ridgeway, and Cameron Khai.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. And Leon was only in the ring by himself because he was getting the hero's ovation.
Exactly. So they had to know
Ridgeway
that he would get that.
Attack him unless he's isolated.
Yeah.
And if he's not getting the hero's ovation, if he didn't connect with the crowd, it would have just felt really awkward and clunky that he's loitering.
Exactly.
Yeah, really good point.
And so that just shows the level of trust that they've got in him, that shows just what he's like, what he's going to achieve, what you hope he's going to achieve in RevPro, right? The lad is 18, 19 now, right? I think he just turned 18, actually.
That, is he?
I think he just turned 18. I remember the reason I know is because I was messaging him about doing an interview with us, and we've been trying to work out an interview, and he said, I can't do it that day because it's my birthday, and he said it's his big birthday, and I was just like,
oh, bless it.
Yeah. So I was like, oh right, okay, so that must have been
when you realise that you're old enough to be his dad.
Oh, fuck off, Dave. Fuck off.
Well, no, we both are, mate. We both are.
Yeah.
But
But so you've got that, like, that level of trust that, hey, the intention of the end of this match is going to be to focus enough on him that organically we can have Ridgeway come in and clatter him.
Yeah.
To start setting up a story there. All that says to me is one of two. Again, and we said this off air, right? We're at a really exciting time now with the world of wrestling, where we are very aware that global companies' eyes are on the lads on our scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that there are lads who do not have long left with us. Zozaya being a perfect example of someone who has gone from being featured so regularly to this is his first show of the year. Okay, and True and Lacey have not been around.
Yeah. Me at the end of the night, I said, "When will I get to see you again?" And he was like, "I don't know."
Yeah,
but as soon as I can.
Yeah, and so this is like the level so we can't take for granted, and we can speculate on these plans, right? And anything could happen between now and then. But Leon K, it feels like we're really building towards J-Cup.
Yeah, I hope so. I think J-Cup, I'm really looking forward to talking to you more about the J-Cup on a future episode, because it feels wide open. Like, there's no obvious suggestion. Like, I feel like I just don't feel like there's an obvious person for it.
No.
But that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because you get to tell like a one-night story, right?
Absolutely, my friend. Yeah.
So where do you want to go next?
Right, we're gonna rattle through the rest. Let's go for Mercedes Blaze and Millie McKenzie. I thought good match.
Exactly what it needed to do, right?
Exactly. I thought, and I was convinced this was gonna have a Cutthroat Collective-ish mugging at the end of Millie to set up a match for Doncaster. That didn't come, but what we did get is we got the less than clean ending, which gives a way back into it. So
and I imagine we got 229 and then 1865.
Yeah.
Then high stakes.
Yeah.
So between the 229 and the 1865, we're either gonna see Millie, or they're going to be talking about Millie, and it's got to lead to Medusa Complex and CTC, isn't it? Like
it really, it has to. Will Kaven defeating Robbie X and Stephen Wolf, I thought was
exactly what it had to be.
Exactly what it had to be. It was, it was a really
Can I explain
good match.
Why?
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
It had to be Kaven winning, because whoever beats Kaven is going to have a special moment of getting the title off of the dickhead that nobody likes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you don't do it in a triple threat match.
No, of course you don't.
You do it in a singles match where they have to fight from underneath, and they have to fight against his cheating, and they have to fight against all his bollocks to get the special moment. The triple threat match is perfect because he gets to kick somebody in the dick and do the jackknife pin, which is how he won the belt.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect. I now get Kaven to wrestle Lio Rush as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Get Kaven to beat Lio Rush
100%.
as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And then let Kaven lose the belt to whoever wins the J Cup.
Yeah.
And if they do that, if Kaven gets the big win over Lio Rush, I think it will make Kaven. I think he's already pretty much ready made. When was the last time you heard he's got 13 on his bum? or chair shot Kaven or get a haircut. Like all that shit's gone.
Yeah. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's no longer about embarrassing the bloke. It's now about recognizing the fact that he's just a really good heel.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's really good at doing his job of making you dislike him.
Yeah.
And then I think we say Kaven's title run was an overwhelming success.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes, a lot of the times, you need the man to make the championship. It's very hard to have the championship make the man. This is one of those occasions where it has given him the opportunity to run with it, do the stuff that he's done with it, get the wins that he's got, feeling organic along the way. It doesn't feel forced, and it feels like if he goes up against Lio Rush and wins, it would still feel maybe slightly underdog, but not underdog in a way it would have done.
He can still cheat to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he can absolutely cheat to win.
But he's got that on his resume.
The fact that he has been booked to beat Lio Rush.
Yes, yeah,
and
I agree.
On his cage match, it will say he beat Lio Rush.
Yeah.
And on the photos and the videos, he will be beating Lio Rush. Like, all these optics are important.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
agreed.
Someone beats him. Whether it's Leon Cage, whether it's Cameron Khai, whether it's, you know, literally anybody.
Yeah.
But it will be a special moment when it happens.
You use that to build the next guy up. Yeah, 100% with you. Speaking, next guy up, Zozaya versus Hechicero. What a bloody great match. Yeah.
So much so.
Yeah.
And do you know what? You touched on it earlier, and I think you said it beautifully. Putting two really technical matches on back to back, especially when you think technical matches tend to have quite slow reactions to start with and they build.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always you're toning the crowd down when the technical contest goes on. But these were so very different technical matches, weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they really were.
And Zozaya was more of a pure match.
Mm-hmm.
Kanji and Deonna had an intensity to the technical work, and there was lots of stuff in there that wasn't just pure wrestling. It was a perfect hybrid, and I loved both matches equally. Really, really enjoyed them.
Yeah, same.
Hechicero's fucking awesome, isn't he? And
yeah.
And do you know what? I felt catharsis for Zozaya because, again, the RevPro fans connect with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're so happy to see him back. You just want him. It's like we've been given this lovely cake. We just want to be able to eat it too by having him win.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. To think this time last year, none of us knew who he was.
Yeah, nuts, mate. Literally, epic encounter last year, first ever Zozaya match. Yeah. I think it was about number 30 that I've seen him now on Sunday. Something like that.
That is mental. Absolutely mental. Oh, that lad. And final match of the night that we're going to discuss. Ricky Knight Jr. defeats JJ Gale. You know what? For me, this was the one that I was coming into. I thought I didn't know who would deliver in the way I wanted it to. I thought it was a mixed bag for me. When it hit, it hit. I think for me, what I needed from this, and maybe the start of Young Guns versus Mills and Joshua kind of took some of this, and you didn't want to do two things back to back. But I feel like having some of that chaotic nature at the start, that brawling around, everyone fighting, and it felt like a wrestling match that was trying to be a fight rather than a fight. Yeah, and that is just something that kind of takes me out of those things sometimes, because I don't want lots of wrestling and pretty wrestling moves when these two guys apparently hate each other. Like, I want that bit more of a brawl feel.
I'm completely with you. There was a moment in the match when it started, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." And then a few minutes into it, a bit of wrestling started happening, and I was like, "No, you should be fighting. You should be battering each other." And I think for me, I struggled with the match because being the overthinkers that we are, I had built what I thought this match should be so much in my head that when it wasn't what I expected it to be, I couldn't enjoy it as much as the people around me And I will say, there was a little group of us, wasn't there, that we all kind of ended up sitting together. Everybody around us seemed to be enjoying it more than we did.
Yeah.
I felt.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy it, but not as much as I thought I would, because there was more wrestling and less fighting than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And that's, that's on me more than anything else. I should be able to let go of what I think something should be and appreciate what it actually is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
as opposed
agreed.
to being so fixated on, no, I'm right, this is what it should be. And it was an intense and aggressive wrestling match.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like they went in and they were just locking up and, it wasn't just an exhibition. It was an intense fight, and they clearly showed disdain for each other. JJ, I thought, looked particularly strong from it, because it took Ricky a lot to put him down. I think back to this time last year. Let's see how good my dates are. I think it was Epic Encounter last year that Ricky and JJ wrestled after JJ had beaten him and Mills in the 229 main event. And JJ winning that 229 main event was like a big moment for JJ. But then Ricky kind of humbled him in Stevenage for Epic Encounter. And that's not what happened now. There was no humbling of JJ Gale, because JJ gave Ricky as good as he got. So I really, really liked that part of it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
We'll touch on the crowd. That was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all.
No. You know what?
I completely tried to break it when people were giving Ricky a hard time and please retire.
I thought it was fucking disgusting.
Wrestler in RevPro, you're a racist. Like, literally, any time anything like that happened, all we tried to do was just scream and shout JJ Gale as loudly as possible and get the focus back on the match and away from the personal. And
I'm just gonna say that. Yeah.
I think Ricky handled it fucking brilliantly.
I did as well. Look, there's gonna be some. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Well, just in the sense that he leaned into it.
Yeah.
In the sense that he didn't pretend he couldn't hear it. And he showed his heel character and just turned his intensity up with it.
Mm-hmm.
What more? I mean, how else could he react to it other than to just pretend he didn't know it was happening?
Yeah. It's just, I think for me,
if you don't like the guy, don't say anything.
Yeah, that's it.
And if you feel really strongly against the guy, then say something to the company about it. But don't buy a ticket and then come along and just neg on it. It's not fair on JJ Gale.
And I also...
big spotlight match for him.
Yeah.
It's just... I don't know. I don't want to judge too much, because I'm not trying to preach. It's just I didn't like it, and I didn't feel it made me feel uncomfortable. I felt sorry for everybody that was involved, and I think everybody handled it really well.
I think you touched on something quite nicely, right? So sometimes the person in the ring isn't going to be someone that you connect with, okay? So there's two things at play here. If you don't connect with that person in the ring, I've never ever I've been open about wrestlers that just don't connect with me in the ring, right? I've never ever said I thought they were shit, because I couldn't go in there and do what they do. They're not shit. I just don't connect with them, right? Unless they're endangering someone's life, that is a very different thing, right? I just cheer loudly for the other people, okay? That is all that happens. I cheer for those other people. Job done, because I'd much rather spend my time cheering for someone and helping someone else get over than shitting on someone just for the sake of shitting on them because I don't like them and their style of wrestling isn't what connects with me. I think shouting "please retire" is fucking disgusting, right? I'm just gonna say fucking disgusting behaviour.
You're talking about someone's livelihood, someone with a wife and kids.
Some of this could be because people just don't like that guy's style of wrestling. Okay, if that is, it's still shit, right? But it could be that. If you have
It's not though,
very
is it?
no,
It's
but
not.
I'm just gonna say there
Because
is some of it is the
you didn't hear any of this before that photo, did you?
no, and that's what I was gonna say. Look, right, I have very strong views about that sort of stuff. Very strong, right? I imagine a lot of us do when it comes to racism and stuff and xenophobia and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna say that when that came out, I didn't look and go, okay, what's going on here? But what I wanted to do, because it was literally a background thing in the environment he was in. Okay, now you could argue, is he surrounding himself with that? But what I want to do is I want to give the chance for the people involved and the people around that I trust to come out and say something and see what was said there, right? That's what I wanted to do. And for me, the people that I have the trust in who have shown me from their actions they've taken. And look, one person I'll say is Andy Quilden, right?
Yep.
When Speaking Out happened, there are people that we know Andy Quilden has at times been tight with who have never appeared in RevPro again. Okay? And that's what makes me go, well, then man of his word, right? Because if he's never done that, if this was as real as people think it was, or there was any question, I don't think Ricky would be back. Right?
No, I agree. I completely agree. And I think Ricky handled the situation at the time well. I think that some people might say it took him too long to come out and talk about it, but you've got to see the lay of the land. You've got to you can't just rush these things, because that's when people make mistakes, when they rush out to say something and then it makes it even messier.
Yeah.
So he took his time, he thought about what he was going to say, he said it. It was endorsed by Andy Quilden as, you know, as a man of colour himself and as the owner and ultimately the boss of Ricky Knight Jr. when it comes to RevPro. He was supported by all of the wrestlers that he works with, and he was supported by people of all different backgrounds as to, you know, that come out and supported him. And if someone now is sitting there saying, well, he shouldn't go to that gym, if he doesn't believe in those things, he shouldn't go to that gym. But life isn't just, it's just not as simple as that, because there are all sorts, we are not a reflection of the politics and morals and principles and values of everybody that we associate ourselves with. And especially not when it comes to business associations.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, we just don't.
Yeah.
One, we don't take in everything that we see around us. You're going in, you're doing a job, you're coming out, you're going to the gym, you're sparring, you're leaving. And it's just, let it be.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say, mate. If I'm
honest.
It's just,
you know what, mate? I know how to end this bit, right? I really know, because it's a very, very complex issue, right? And I can understand people having feelings the way they do. I can understand people thinking, did he mean all of this? When, like, apologies and stuff like that. Take whatever you want from it, but for me, I'll judge people on the actions they show. If someone comes out there and physically says some racist, xenophobic stuff, and I see and hear them say it, I'll be the first person to be like, fuck that person, bin them off.
100%.
Where I want to end this segment, and look, to be fair, I completely forgot, so this is on me, I completely forgot about the crowd reaction when I talked about this last, so I didn't mean to leave on a sour note. How I'm going to end this, Leighton fucking Buzzard is back.
Oh, mate. Oh, I feel so bad now because we're focused so much on a negative. But Leighton is back.
Leighton
looks like a fucking $1 million, doesn't he? Like
James Hetfield, 1996. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's funny actually, because before he got injured, you started to see that he's going to need a change of image. He's not going to be able to have the long hair forever. His hairline isn't going to hold up.
Yeah.
And it's what's he going to embrace? And I was trying to picture him with short hair and stuff like this. mate, he looks like a fucking badass cowboy.
Yeah, he does.
And
Yeah.
I really, really like it. And he looks grizzled. He looks older.
Yeah.
Which is perfect because now he's like this vet coming in and like,
yeah,
you know, because bear in mind he's been mentoring Cameron Khai.
Mm-hmm.
I like this idea of you know, Leighton Buzzard having overcome all the difficulties, just going in and being the grizzled young veteran, if you like. Yeah, I thought he did the sell for Ricky attacking him so well.
Yeah,
it was really, really well done, and the warmth from the crowd towards him was really genuine and lovely.
Yeah.
And we get to see him versus RKJ in the 1865.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, there's another crowd which is unpredictable, and they've been a bit frosty at times with Ricky. But I tell you what, on that night they're going to all be behind Leighton Buzzard, or they better bloody be.
You know what's really funny? I think I need to go back and look at my spreadsheet, but I think I've only ever seen Leighton Buzzard wrestle once before.
Really?
Because he got injured, and that was the 1865 against Will Ospreay.
I think that this next match is my 10th.
Yeah, I think
I only know that because I was looking at the numbers the other day because it was my 75th RevPro show. So I was looking at who had appeared the most on those 75 shows, and he was one. I'm sure he was one match away from double figures. Nice.
Yeah, I've got my spreadsheet in front of me. I'm just gonna get a quick help if I could actually spell his name. Leighton Buzzard.
I love the fact that to get to half the shows that I see him in, I have to drive past Leighton Buzzard.
Literally Will Ospreay 1865 was the only other time I've seen.
And do you know what? I didn't get to see that one, so I would have loved to have seen that one.
There we go. Right, Dave, it's been fun, my friend. We're obviously going to have a couple of weeks with some downtime. However, I'm not going to.
We're having 2 weeks off.
Oh well, mate. I wish we were having 2 weeks. I say I don't wish we were having 2 weeks off. I love this too much, but I'm not going to say what. But we've got some pretty cool stuff in the pipeline that if we can pull it off, you'll know what it is. No, it's not Mercedes before anyone starts suggesting that. But
we've got an exclusive with Mercedes Mone.
Yeah. Look, if we pull things off in the way we want, I think we're definitely going to have an exclusive in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we're going to be hearing from some of the people on screen at RevPro. If not these next 2 weeks, we'll be back. We'll have something fun and interesting to get us through to the show. But I've been George, you've been Dave. Thank you, good night.